What's going on, guys? K-Pine here and welcome back. Before we get into it, I do want to announce that I'm now an official coach on Metafy. So if you or anybody you know is looking for coaching in Pokemon Go PvP, please consider me to fill that role. It would be very much appreciated. I'll put a link to my page down below in the description, so be sure to check it on out if you are interested. Now, for this video, I'll be featuring Bruxish in the Psychic Cup. With its release recently, Bruxish has made an instant impact in the Psychic Cup meta, being the only Pokemon that can learn the fast move of Bite. Because of this, it can output some serious damage, but in return, it's very glassy. So I'm pairing it up with Victini on the lead and Malamar in the back, where it's Victini's job to take care of the fairy types and charm users that my backline is weak to. And with that, let's get right into the battles. Alright, getting to the first battle, we lead Victini into Galarian Rapidash. Pretty decent lead for us, as we are able to outpace to these V-creates, which do hit very hard, but Galarian Rapidash does have access to high horsepower, which will basically one-shot Victini. So I respect it with the shield. They're running Mega Horn instead, which most are, so they can hit those psychic types. And they make a very nice catch on to their Victini with this V-create right here. That just allows me to bring in my Bruxish and farm this Victini all the way down. Whether they go for the overheat or not, we are able to just barely tank it, as it is very glassy. Farm down, we're very close to a move. See if my opponent is going to come back in with the Galarian Rapidash, which they do, and now we're going to bait with the Psychic Fangs, looking to get that shield and get that defense drop, which we do, and that's very unfortunate. That's a very fortunate bait for us, as it puts a lot of pressure onto this Galarian Rapidash to throw right away against my Victini instead of getting extra farm. And since they are running Mega Horn instead of high horsepower, we can survive that move, get off our V-create, and force that final shield from my opponent. My opponent looks for the catch, bring in Claydol, but either way, I'm going to be throwing these foul plays. And I never talked about my Malamar moveset. I'm running Superpower on it just to save some charge TMs. On your Malamar, run Hyper Beam. There is no situation where Superpower will be more beneficial to throw than Foul Play. 'Cause even in the Malamar mirror, both Foul Play and Superpower do the same amount of damage. So having that nuke move of Hyper Beam is just going to be a lot more beneficial for you. But in this matchup, we're able to take out the Galarian Rapidash with our Malamar because we overfarmed and threw in good timing against the Claydol. And that was a GG's against my opponent. Next matchup, Victini Lead. Victini Lead is very important. You do not throw your V-create first. Farm up to 100 energy before you throw. And even then, if they end up not throwing, then you throw the overheat. You never want to be the first one to throw the V-create, because as you see in this example, they let that V-create, they throw their V-create first, your V-create now takes them out. Very important you do that, because now I'm able to get to a V-create, which gets the shield for the Malamar, and a third one in addition. My Victini just putting in so much work this game, and this Malamar still can't farm me down with Psycho Cuts, and my opponent just has had enough, and they can see the match. GG's to them. Next battle, Victini into Malamar. I played this one out multiple different ways. I experimented with it, swapping straight into my Bruxish, which, as you'll see, is not the best decision to do, because a foul play one-shots Bruxish. It's absolutely crazy. Instead, Victini can tank a foul play, so you stay in with it. What I like to do is stay in, let them throw the foul play first, throw either the V-create or the overheat, whether you feel like going for the nuke move or the bait, and then safe swapping out into your Bruxish afterwards. But as you'll see, that foul play does one-shot the Bruxish. And here I'm going to come back in with my Malamar. Going to load up on energy. I do end up getting denied on a one-turn desync bring-in, which is kind of unfortunate, but that is alright. Now here I can load up, farm up more, and throw on the CMP tie. And in this cup, I do recommend running a Malamar and Victini with if your Victini has a very high attack, but running more specifically your Malamar with a very high attack, because it allows you to win those CMP ties against an opposing Malamar, and the CMP tie against Victini is IV dependent. So by having a very high attack, it gives you a good chance to win CMP against Victini as well. And in this match, we are able to take out that Victini as well. Their final Pokemon is a Bruxish. We are able to get the final shield with that foul play, which is kind of unfortunate because we wouldn't reach another foul play. Now it's up to our Victini. Is this overheat gonna be enough? Just barely not, as this Bruxish is gonna throw the Aqua Tail to take out my Victini, and Malamar is just not gonna be able to Psycho Cut down in time. GG's my opponent, well played to them. Next matchup, we lead Victini into Victini, so the mirror. And just like I mentioned, you're gonna wanna stay in. Never be the first person to throw your V-Create. Let's see what my opponent wants to do. If they throw a V-Create, which they do right here, I'm gonna throw my V-Create in return, but my opponent makes a very nice catch onto Malamar. But that is perfectly fine, because now I can throw these V-Creates back to back to either force a shield or take out this Malamar, which we do, we force a shield, and now I'm gonna safe swap into my Bruxish, because I can shield once and farm this Malamar all the way down right before they get to another foul play. My opponent's final Pokemon ends up being a Galarian Rapidash, and we are going to go for the Psychic Fangs bait again. Hopefully we can get this shield, which we do, and now with the Galarian Rapidash being shields down, we are in a pretty good position for our Malamar to close out this game. I also call out they're going to bait the Body Slam, which they do, which is very, very fortunate for us because this forces them to throw another Body Slam to dump in their energy. So now I can just bring in my Malamar, start getting an energy lead. They hard swap back in their Victini. I can tank a V-Create. I can't really tank a Mega Horn, so I'm going to save my shield for that potential instead of this V-Create. So now I'm going to throw off this foul play as soon as I get it. And with that Galarian Rapidash being basically energy dry and throwing out those two Body Slams, we'd be able to outpace to the foul play, considering we still had a shield, and GG's to my opponent. Next matchup, the Victini Mirror again. So we're going to stay in. Never be the first one to throw your V-Create. I can't stress that enough. Always let your opponent throw that V-Create first or that overheat. If they throw an overheat themselves, then you can throw a V-Create if you want, because it's going to take 2 moves to take out the Victini regardless. But if you do end up throwing they throw overheat and you throw a V-Create yourself, make sure you shield their next move, because you go down with a ton of energy. If you don't plan on shielding their next move, then go for an overheat yourself. So therefore their Victini has less HP when you let their move go through. But in this case, opponent brings in a Bruxish as well. And this is looking like a potential mirror team, but they end up having a Galarian Rapidash in the back, farms down my Bruxish, and we have a shield advantage, but they have an energy lead. This is going to be very close. We'll see what happens. I call the Body Slam, and now I am in a very good position here, because they are going to be forced to spam off these Body Slams, but we can spam off these foul plays in return, where the Galarian Rapidash is now in a range where a single foul play will take it out. So we get to the back-to-back moves. First foul play coming through does end up getting their final shield, so now we can throw this next foul play right away, and this should just about take out their G-Rap, which it does, and GG's to my opponent. Next battle, we lead Victini into Galarian Rapidash. So like last time, we're going to stay in, see what my opponent wants to do. They're going to overfarm, bring in their own Victini, and now I'm going to go for this overheat. Get some massive damage off onto their Victini, swap in my Bruxish, and bite all the way down. And the Victini doesn't even get to a move to throw off against my Bruxish. Potentially, they could have gotten off their V-Create, but they were aiming for that overheat for the extra damage, and it just didn't work out for them. So that's very, very fortunate for me, as now this Galarian Rapidash is forced to throw another Body Slam, but we win CMP. Everything going right for us in this moment. My opponent does make a great call right there. So that is a little unfortunate for us, as an Aqua Tail would have been nice to take it out, but that's perfectly okay, because now I can bring back in my Victini, and potentially farm this Galarian Rapidash all the way down. I call a bait. Little unfortunate as they do go for that Mega Horn, but again, we are able to survive a Mega Horn, and we do get off this V-Create against their Alolan Raichu, Thundershock Alolan Raichu at that. And now we can easily swap in our Malamar after calling another Thunder Punch bait. Very, very risky move right there, but ended up paying off for us as we can now land this Foul Play, which one-shots Alolan Raichu and take down the Galarian Rapidash as well. GG's. Next battle, we lead Victini into Malamar. So this one, I'm going to stay in. See what my opponent wants to do. They're going to overfarm, throw off Foul Play. But again, let them throw that Foul Play first. No shield it, then you can land a V-Create. If it gets to a point where you're at your Overheat or V-Create before they throw them, you can throw the Overheat, because again, as you see, we can easily tank a Foul Play. So now I'm going to swap out into my Malamar. And my opponent's staying in. So again, overload on energy, throwing on these CMP ties because I'm very, very confident that I'm going to be winning CMP in these matches with my very attack-weighted Malamar. My opponent shields, so I shield in return. Or they don't shield, but we are up a shield, so I would like to preserve my Malamar, as again, we have a lot of energy on it, and they have a Claydol in the back. So we just have to make sure we throw on good timing here. Don't let any Mud Slaps sneak on through. 4 Psycho Cuts to their 3 Mud Slaps, or 1 Psycho Cut to their 1 Mud Slap. We want to minimize the amount of free turns my opponent gets. And they end up just sacking their Claydol, putting it all on their Galarian Slowbro. But surprise, we have our Bite Bruxish that would absolutely go to town. And my opponent concedes the match. GG's. Next battle, we lead Victini into the mirror. Again, Victini is by far the most common lead I've seen in this cup so far. So it's very, very important you play it out the way I told you to. And in this matchup, you'll see me make a mistake from what I talked about earlier. So they go for the Overheat, so I'm going for the V-Create. And since I'm going for the V-Create, I'm going to want to shield their next move to preserve all this energy. But I end up letting it go. So in this situation, if I'm letting it go, I should have gone for an Overheat of myself to get off as much damage as I could on their Victini. But that's alright, because we do bring in our Bruxish. They respawn with the Galarian Rapidash, go for Body Slam number 1, they're going for Body Slam number 2, and I will give up a shield because I do want to be able to get off this next move of mine. I throw right before they get to their next Body Slam. I'm going for this Aqua Tail, because if they try and call a bait, they will get taken out, as I'm not quite sure Psychic Fangs would have been enough right there. It might have been, just because Galarian Rapidash is very tanky, but that allows us to get to another move against their Malamar, get their first shield, and now I can bring in my own. It's going to be a very, very close end game. I try and call a Foul Play, but as you'll see, they're running Hyper Beam, and because they're able to land that Hyper Beam, we are now in a very, very tough spot, as this Victini can easily just quick attack us down after getting the final shield. So very heads up play from my opponent right there, and going for that Hyper Beam to do maximum damage to us as possible. GG's. All right, next battle, we lead Victini into a Great League shiny Metagross. What an absolute flex from our opponent. And a Spice Pick trying to catch those Charm users in Gardevoir or Gallade on the lead. My opponent's going to swap out into Malamar, and since they swap out, I can go for this V-Create and dip into this my own Malamar, not having to worry about a Foul Play on the Victini. Again, opponent able to land the Hyper Beam, but because they are now switch locked in, they can't swap out. Like last match, they swapped out into a Quick Attack Victini that could then farm down. Psycho Cut is just not going to cut it here. So they are forced to throw a Foul Play, which they do. Does get our first shield, as we will match these shields with our opponent. Because even though switch isn't necessary here, it could potentially be valuable depending on what they have in the back. Unfortunately, we do go down right before we get to another move. And I'm going to bring in my Bruxish. They have their own. And because we brought in our own Bruxish right away, we are not going to be behind on energy, force them to throw on the CMP tie, which we can then easily let go. Bring in our own Victini, farm down this Bruxish, and now realistically there's nothing this Metagross can do because we can easily get to the back-to-back V-Creates. We do lose CMP tie, but we still have a shield, so we are not worried at all. As we shield that Meteor Mash, first V-Create right here will get their final shield, and second V-Create will take them out. GG's to my opponent as the Metagross goes down. Next matchup, we lead Victini into Galarian Slowbro. Since it does take 8 poison jabs to get to their first move, we are going to be able to outpace to the overheat, but we're baiting instead with the V-Create, as V-Create, even if they call it bait, still does a massive amount of damage. So now since we are debuffed, we're going to swap out into our Bruxish, clear the debuff, shield the move that they throw, which is the Sludge Bomb, and they end up bringing in a Galarian Rapidash of their own, which I am able to outpace before they get to a potential Mega Horn, land this Aqua Tail as my opponent tries to call the bait, and we're able to bite down before they get to their move. That is fantastic for us. And now they bring in their Galarian Slowbro. Bruxish absolutely putting in work. Bring in this G-Bro into the red. Now I can bring in my Victini. We farm all the way down before they get into another move, and they have a Claydol in the back, so this game is long over. I can throw this V-Create, get their final shield, bring in my Malamar, and this game is over. My opponent concedes the match. GG's. And that is the end of the video. Bruxish is a fun Pokemon to use, bringing so much fast move pressure to this meta that's not in the form of Charm. And again, if you are looking for coaching, I have a link down below in the description. It'll bring you right to my Metafy page where you can sign up if so desired. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate you. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like, subscribe, and comment down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.